Hey, I'm Stephanie, and renowned YouTube dermatologist Dr. Dre told me to stop wasting money on hair loss serums. Okay, maybe she didn't just say this to me, maybe she addressed this to us all. It was just the title of a short that I watched, but it felt like she was talking to me. As you may have guessed, we'll be talking about hair today, more specifically, what it feels like when it begins to disappear. I am experiencing perimenopausal-related hair loss. Basically, my hormones are shifting, and that's leading to a little bit of hair loss. Now, it's probably not severe enough for you to notice, but part of that's also because I'm styling my hair differently, I'm doing things like using root powders, and some days, if I feel like it, I even wear a wig. Sorry, I just thought that would be funny. But I'm not gonna do the rest of the video looking like this, so I'm just gonna put the wig back on and we'll go on from there. Hormonal hair loss is really common, not just for men, for women too. In fact, it looks like up to 2/3 of menopausal women deal with it to some degree. Female pattern hair loss rarely causes total baldness in women, but it can. So I would like to try to take as much control of the situation as possible. And I thought I would take you on this adventure with me since I plan on testing out a whole bunch of stuff, including a hair serum, because I tested it before I heard Dr. Dre. But honestly, I think this hair serum might be an exception. Maybe it depends on the way you define hair serum, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, I'll tell you what you can expect in today's video so that you can use the timestamps to find whatever's most relevant for you. We'll briefly discuss hormonal hair loss and what's typically recommended to combat it, keeping in mind that I am not offering you any medical advice or any advice at all, really. This is more of a friendly discussion. I don't have a medical degree. What I do have is a head of thinning hair and a willingness to test things out to see what works. So I'll also share what I've tried so far and what I'm testing now. If this sort of adventure sounds like the kind of thing you'd like to follow, then make sure to subscribe. Or if you'd just like to chat with someone who understands what it's like to start losing their hair, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. When it comes to hair loss, most of the studies out there have been done solely on men, just like most medical studies. I'm going to try to give the medical community the benefit of the doubt here and just assume that the only reason they did this was because men are generally much simpler organisms when it comes to hormones, and so it was just easier and cheaper to base the studies on men. But I sincerely hope that we will be seeing more studies on female pattern hair loss in the future as the medical community becomes more aware of the fact that women are not just tiny versions of men. Our bodies react very differently to hormones, and hormonal hair loss is never just cut and dry. Is the answer A, we have too much of a hormone? B, we have too little of a hormone? C, our sensitivities to certain hormones have changed? D, a nutrient deficiency is causing a hormonal imbalance? Or E, is it a mixture of all those things and every individual has to try to figure out exactly what their problem is for themselves? If you guessed E, you're on the ball, which also means that seeing a certified doctor is probably the best course of action. When it comes to women in perimenopause, estrogen is a hormone that's typically associated with boosting hair growth. So when our levels of that start to go down, that can lead to hair thinning. But increased sensitivities to hormones like DHT can also do things like cause hair follicles to shrink, which also causes hair thinning. Maybe both factors are at play. Maybe it's just one. Everybody's different. So the first thing I did was talk to my doctor, who ultimately recommended hormone replacement therapy. To be fair, I didn't go to my doctor for hair loss. I actually went to her for my multiple other symptoms that I was having. I realized that there are a lot of women out there who don't really have much of a problem in perimenopause, but it is hammering me every aspect of my life. So I wasn't even thinking about my hair loss when I first began hormone replacement therapy because my other symptoms were just so much more devastating. As a side note, the therapy is helping with those symptoms, but I still don't feel like my old self. I just don't feel quite as rotten as I did before. But several months into my menopause hormone therapy, I realized I had a whole bunch of new hair growth, and the length of those hairs corresponded to the time when I began taking the hormones. So I assume that hormone replacement therapy is what triggered all that new growth. It looks like adding estrogen back into my body might have accidentally halted my hair loss. But as I mentioned, hormone replacement therapy is helping me, but it hasn't completely reset my body to its factory default settings. Yes, my hair is definitely improved, and I'm thankful for that, but it is still thinner than it used to be, so I'm still looking for other ways to support my hair health as I age. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know know that I've already had some very positive experiences with the skin on my face when I started adding Calecim skincare to my regimen. They're a science-backed company that uses growth factors and exosomes in their skincare to achieve results. I'm not going to go into that here because I have a whole video about them, which I'll link here and in the show notes in case you're interested. But basically, I saw such positive, dramatic changes in my skin when I started using their products to combat my perimenopausal skin symptoms that I thought it might be worth trying their advanced hair system, which contains a hair serum. Enter Dr. Dre.
I encourage everyone who's going through hair loss to see a board-certified dermatologist. There are a lot of different types of hair loss out there, and getting the right diagnosis is key.
But the scalp is skin, and the skin on my face responded really well to their technology, which comes from medical research on how to heal dramatic skin injuries like burns and ulcers. So maybe this serum is the exception? I am now 5.5 weeks into my 6-week treatment, and I am beginning to see itsy bitsy teeny tiny eeny weeny little spikes of hair pop up. Now, for some reason, it is incredibly difficult for me to film myself and get my hair into focus, but I am going to do my best to insert some footage of those little sprouts here because I'm incredibly proud of them. Based on all my little baby sprouts, it looks like the Calecim Advanced Hair System works for me, but I think it's important to mention here that it does not work for everyone. I personally know people who are absolutely thrilled with the results that they get from it, which is why I was so interested in trying it in the first place. But I also personally know people who tried it and it didn't really do anything for them. And because it is such a pricey regimen, I asked my contact at Calecim who it can work for and who it probably won't work for. And it turns out that a lot depends on your type of hair loss. To put it in very simple terms, if the cells that produce your hair are asleep, if your follicles are dormant, but they're still alive, the serum has the potential to be able to wake those cells back up so they can start producing hair again. That is, if your body's able to. Growing hair is a pretty energy-intensive process for our bodies, so things like your general health and your body's ability to pull nutrients out of your diet are also factors that will affect your body's ability to grow hair. But if your hair loss is from scarring or if the follicles have died, then the advanced hair system isn't going to be able to resurrect them. And honestly, if it could, wouldn't that be scary? Because then we'd have zombie hair. I have a hard enough time styling my normal hair. I don't even want to know what styling zombie hair would be like. So Calecim's recommendation is to start treatment as soon as you notice the hair loss, which, by the way, is in line with what a lot of doctors say, that treating hair loss as early as possible is the best course of action, because that increases the chances that the hair follicles are still alive and can be switched back on if they get the right signals, for example, from hormone replacement therapy, or, in my case, the advanced hair serum with its growth factors and exosomes. Now, Calecim sent me that 6-week regimen to try free of charge, and now that it's almost over, the moment of truth has come. It is now time to decide whether I want to repurchase it myself, since this is the sort of thing that requires constant maintenance. So here are my honest thoughts. I would definitely consider purchasing it because of my little sprouts, but part of me is wondering if it was the scalp serum that did it, or if it was the microneedling, because when you receive the advanced hair system, it includes a microneedling stamp that you use to stamp your scalp before applying the serum. And studies have shown that mechanical stimulation of the scalp through things like microneedling improve circulation and thus hair growth. So I'm going to wait. Once I finish the last bottle of scalp serum, I'm simply going to continue microneedling my scalp without the serum once a week and monitor that, see what happens. If it's anything like my face, microneedling is good, but microneedling plus growth factor is better. So we'll see if it's the same way with my scalp. The only way to know is to test it. So now that I've jump-started the process with the entire advanced hair system, including the serums, I'm gonna see if I can maintain my new little sprouts with microneedling on its own, and I'll report back in a couple of months. So I won't be repurchasing the hair serum quite yet because I want to try another solution first. After just microneedling for a while, I'm going to try a device that was kindly sent to me by the company HAIRGUARD. It's called the Growband. I'm trying to be as scientific as I can about only trying one new thing at a time so that I can see exactly how effective each individual solution really is for me. As a side note, trying just one thing at a time time doesn't seem to be what experts actually recommend for hair loss. Now, I did some internet research, and please take that with the grain of salt that it deserves. I try my best, but I'm not a dermatologist. Several meta-analyses have apparently shown that combining several different therapies simultaneously seems to provide the best results, and starting those therapies as soon as possible seems to be the best course of action. I'll link one of those meta-analyses in the show notes so you can take a closer look. According to many doctors, if you're dealing with hair loss, it's best to start with the boring stuff, eating a healthy, well-balanced diet with lots of nutrients, and then getting those nutrients up to your scalp with regular exercise to increase your circulation. But there's also things like getting a good amount of sleep regularly and keeping your stress levels under control. Easier said than done, I know. If you lay a solid foundation with those basics, you also increase your chances of seeing success with any other therapies you try. For example, like the combined therapies we're talking about, chemical, pharmaceutical, laser, and mechanical treatments. So for example, I could then use Calecim for my chemical therapy, maybe get a laser helmet for my light therapy, and then try the Growband for my mechanical treatment. If you've watched me for any length of time, you know I love my gadgets. I'm constantly zapping myself with some sort of device. I've got lasers and a nanocurrent device and a red light therapy mask, and I use all of them because I've seen them all make a difference in my skin. So I figured, why not try the same thing with my hair? The first device I'll be trying is a head massager because, quite honestly, perimenopause has made me quite the headachy mess. And when I saw that this mechanical treatment would also mean daily head massages, I was all for it. The way that I understand it is that androgenic alopecia, which is the type of hormonal hair loss that I am experiencing, can often be associated with a higher sensitivity to the hormone DHT, and that ends up causing the hair follicles to shrink, which can also shorten the hair cycle and ultimately leads to hair thinning or hair loss. There are several FDA-approved solutions for dealing with DHT sensitivity, things like minoxidil and dutasteride, but those things are associated with side effects. Hair loss is a very personal thing that can deeply affect confidence, so I can understand why some people would choose to take those things despite their side effects. But I myself am just not at a point right now where I would want to risk potential side effects for purely cosmetic reasons, especially because perimenopause is already throwing my body for a loop. So I don't want to add any kooky side effects on top of that. There's always the option to topically apply minoxidil, which is associated with fewer side effects, but that is a real chore. It has to be applied twice a day and it leaves a greasy residue behind. Now, I have fine hair and a naturally greasy scalp, so I feel like adding grease on top of that would just be a disaster. So maybe minoxidil would help my hair growth, but to the detriment of my hairstyles. And what's the point of having more hair if it always looks horrible? That just defeats the point of the whole treatment. That's why I find the mechanical option so appealing, because measures like reducing scalp tension and increasing blood flow through massage have also been linked to reducing sensitivity to DHT. The great news is you can massage your scalp for free with your fingers. It just takes a little bit of time and energy. The reason I'm not a fan of that option is because I have incredibly fine hair and a very oily scalp. So anytime I touch my hair, the residual oils that are just naturally on my fingers get into my hair, weighing it down and making it look greasy. So I thought about using the scalp massager that I use whenever I shampoo my hair. Theoretically, a great idea. In practice, there's a problem because thanks to perimenopause, I have frozen shoulder, meaning it makes it incredibly painful for me to lift my hands up much further than this. So that's why I thought the Growband would be a great solution, a way to get my head massage in while keeping my hands free. And I did give it a try already because how could I not? And I have to say, it is a very relaxing way to spend 10 to 20 minutes. And considering the fact that stress reduction is also something that they recommend when you're dealing with hair loss, I would say relaxation is a side effect that I can get on board with. So, I could work or clean the house while wearing it, but I could also just read a book, watch a show, or simply meditate as this weird little stormtrooper headband squinches my scalp, increasing blood flow and carrying oxygen and nutrients to my follicles. But I have to be honest, when I pictured a head massager, this isn't exactly what I had in my mind's eye. I was kind of thinking along the lines of those metal things that look kind of like daddy long legs. That's what I picture when I think of a head massager. This Growband works in a completely different way. Essentially, when you turn the Growband on, it pumps air into an airbag that inflates against your scalp, kind of squinching your scalp skin together and then releasing it. Based on information I found on the HAIRGUARD website, the creators of this device specifically chose this type of massage to reduce scalp tension. Apparently, some preliminary studies, one of which will be linked in the show notes, indicate that Botox may be a possible treatment for hair loss. And the theory as to why it looks like it works is because Botox, the toxin, releases the muscle. And when that muscle is released, more blood is allowed to circulate to the follicles and regenerate them. So this crazy little headband intends to do the same thing, except without injections. By squeezing the scalp together and then letting it fall slack, it intends to release the tension and increase blood flow in a similar way. So my plan is to test the Growband in daily use as soon as I'm done with my microneedling treatments. If you want to follow along on this hair-raising adventure, make sure to subscribe. But if you feel like I'm crazy for wanting to wear an airbag on my head, feel free to leave me a clown emoji in the comments. Just be careful, because I might throw my wig at you. If you want to keep hanging out, I've got another video for you right here. I hope that you will like and comment, but even if you don't, I hope you have a great week, and we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.